here. It's been way too long. Susan Gaitan here, and I'm here with my compadre, Mr. Michael Renault, all the way from Long Island, New York. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Doing?
You're so far away in California.
I know, all the way on the other side of the country. Great to see you. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving.
We did. We had a big parade here and a really nice Thanksgiving. We didn't go to the parade, but we had a really nice Thanksgiving. Thank you. How about you?
Good. Yeah, trying to get off that tryptophan or whatever it is.
It's tryptophan.
But in a turkey. We made up a word that night called tryptonite because I couldn't remember what the actual thing was called. And then we ran with it, you know. We really had a trip that night.
I don't know. That sounds like a different type of turkey you guys serve in California.
That's what they put in that turkey, Mom. Yeah, now that I think about it, we were all just a bunch of weight afterwards, but we had a great time, like always. But yeah, trying to make it up at the gym. So, you know, the usual.
Yeah, good.
Balance things out this time of year. So we've got some exciting stuff today.
We have a guest.
We do. We have a guest.
Did you see her? She's like She's like, I've had this awkward moment where they're having this conversation acting like I'm not here, but here she is.
She's really not this quiet, guys. So let me introduce her. So because she might not really brag about herself. So let me do this. And gosh, I'm wearing red just for her, because if you know her, if you know Cathy, she is one of the biggest, if not the biggest advocate for women out there, women in business. And, you know, that's a powerful thing because I'm a female, I can definitely relate to her, but she, you know, her motive is just to build confidence in women in general in business, but she's got 50 years in business altogether doing this, being a consultant, a speaker, a writer, but she's been in the auto industry for 25 of those years. So she really understands not just women in business, but women in the auto industry, which is such a fascinating topic that we could go on and on and on about. Her book is called A Woman's Guide to Buying a Car. Her name is Cathy Droz. Cathy, so happy to have you.
Thank you. Pleasure.
You get the welcome golf clap.
Oh, thank you. That's good.
Cathy, I love seeing your content online. I know we're connected and I see those little red heels everywhere. Again, I'm wearing red for you.
Thank you.
It worked. I mean, we're also close to the holidays, but tell us a little bit about what what you've been up to lately and what you're passionate about and your legacy, the legacy that you want to leave for your daughters. And then we'll get into some hot topics. I'm sorry, before you begin, we're talking today about retaining female sales professionals in the auto industry. So this is specifically if you are a sales professional or a manager. And Cathy's going to share with us what successful dealers do right. So Cathy.
Well, thank you.
Hi.
This is fun. Hi. And I do want to say, I live very close to, Alan Ram, the Scottsdale, Arizona, and here I am in Phoenix. Alan, by all means, was the person, if you wanted sales training or you want to know anything about the auto business. Alan has a legacy here that is beyond. His name is way more popular, not than you, Michael. I know that yours is, but
no, not even close to what Alan is, especially in Arizona. Trust me.
Definitely, he is the king. Yes, for sure. So, thank you for inviting me, and I like the topic. And I also, I probably wanted to explain why I got into the automotive industry. It wasn't exactly my goal at the time, but in my book, I write about at age 10, my father, New Yorker, salesman, we'd buy a different car every year, and mom didn't want to go anymore. So it was kind of like, he's embarrassing, you go with him. But at 10 years old, going to Catholic school, I mean, I could barely tie my saddle shoes, no less, figure out how to buy a car, but I did go along. And at age 10, I started to learn a little bit about negotiating. My father had a very, I want to say, unorthodox way of negotiating. But his rule at the end was, it always needs to be a win-win-win, dear daughter. A win for the salesperson, a win for the dealership itself, and then a win for the consumer, being us.
I love
And that was taught. He asked every salesman at the end, is there enough commission in this for you? Otherwise, I won't negotiate that low. When they said it was okay, he started a relationship and they became friends. So I learned very young that relationships and customer service and et cetera was extremely important. I learned to negotiate fairly, I believe. You know, I wasn't screaming around, no, I'm not paying that. I learned what to do that way. So by age 17, now every year at 10, 11, 12, I learned something else. At age 17, my father said, go buy the family car. And went in and purchased it. Dad had to sign the check, but I was able to negotiate that. And what came in the end was the salesman and the general manager said they thought they were on Candid Camera. And for you millennials, that was a TV show back in my day. They thought they were on Candid Camera, but they never said. They were so surprised that someone my age did it. They never said because I was a woman. So I never had any kind of, well, I can buy cars. This is easy. And then from then on, you know, buying cars was easy. And men started saying, instead of the woman saying, I need a man with me, men would say, hey, can you come with me to negotiate and to understand. So that led me to realize over all these years, getting into the auto industry with an ad agency, and I only had dealer clients, I was able to write copy. So now the commercials, the radio shows and the TV shows, I geared all towards women because I knew as far back as 20 years ago, women were going to make the final decision, just like my mom sent me. She only got to pick out the color back in those days. So I got to do
I
more
love
than that.
it. And Cathy,
Yeah.
you know, you hear this stat quite often, and it's that women influence, what is it, 80% of all purchases at home.
Yeah,
I actually would argue it's more than 80%.
it is more. It's more. And I will tell you, the stats are fabulous. With COVID happening,
Oh,
more women were buying online more than men. And they said the reason was that women were better at navigating the websites. And because of their Amazon buying, it was so simple for them to go in, and now they were more comfortable basically ordering the vehicle online. That was true. And they have, I think women in every industry are an influence way more. It's over 90% since COVID. And I don't know what's happening. Maybe Michael knows that the men are turning into little turtles, putting their
yeah.
head-
What's happening
know,
with you guys, Michael?
I'll tell you, it happens in my house with my wife and I.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's so much, I don't know how to navigate Amazon, because I know how to get through it just fine. It's too many choices. I make too many choices and decisions throughout a day. By the time I get into Amazon, I don't want 50 different shirts to pick from, or 50 different these to pick from. I just want one or two. Let me just decide between. And my wife, like, we've had this, she enjoys all the choices. She
Right.
enjoys
Those
looking at
filters
each
are
one.
fun.
What?
The filters are fun.
The
You know, once you
filters are
learn how
fun.
to work the
Right.
filters.
And also, like, she, okay, I like this one, but is there something that it's a better price or whatever? It just becomes a whole different experience for her than it is for me. For me, I wanted a little more cut and dry. I love going to websites, car shopping, television shopping, all of those things. I love visiting websites far more than I enjoy shopping on apps. And I don't know why that is, but it's just how
Well, you're a buyer, you're not a shopper. You want to buy.
Yeah, maybe I
this
just
is
want to,
gray,
that's a
black,
good
and
way to
white.
Yeah, that
describe
makes
it.
sense. Yeah. So Cathy, tell us about your book, A Woman's Guide to Buying a Car. I mean, so this obviously stemmed from your experience and what your dad taught you, but tell us about the things that people can find in there.
Well, and the second heading for the book is with confidence and street smarts, because I had to get that New York sarcasm in there. You know, I'm from Long Island as well as Michael. So in the book, it's everything from my story, which helps, which you know in social media and everything else, you know, it's the genuine person. This is how I started. This is why I want to help women, but I never bash, not one dealership in there. I give facts, but I let women also know that they have to pay the rent. And this is what's involved in their day-to-day process. And the negotiating is all based on research. Absolutely. If you, I think what I say when I talk about the book is I use confidence buying a car, because I feel if you can negotiate a car deal, you can get through anything, you know, divorce, I won't even go into, you know, all the other things that could go on. So if you can do that, because we've always been compared to, you rather have a tooth extraction than buy a car. Isn't that
Right.
always the thing?
Right.
That they
Well,
say?
exactly. And it's the old thing of, right, a person, but you know, okay, in your house, when you were growing up, you bought a car every year, but we all know today, the average American buys a car or leases a car once every 3 to 5 years.
Right.
And I always use the example of like, we're not good at anything we do once every 3 to 5 years. I don't care who you are. We're not good at it. So the things that we're not good at, we're scared and we have trepidations, and we want someone to help, you know, professional to help take us through that process. But so I know why, and I know how I teach, but I would love to hear from you. What do you think? What makes that woman salesperson so just stand out in a different way than the men do?
The relatability, I believe, and I think because of the way the industry has been, not recently as much as, you know, certainly when I started out, is that to have a woman in there, and a woman that is not intimidating. I will say how a salesperson dresses is not intimidating, therefore, to a man or a woman, but a woman feels there's, oh my gosh, someone who will understand. And that is the relatable. And I'm finding more and more men, because obviously I'm always researching, more and more men are gravitating towards female salespeople. You're going to love this, in luxury brands, which,
Interesting.
you know, like I do a lot of research with Lexus and with Porsche, and those are luxury brands, and they're finding more and more their saleswomen there are staying longer. They're making good money, and they are getting repeat business, and men are recommending them to other men. So that to me tells me that some dealership, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, they've established a culture that works.
Well, and I think the brand has a lot to do with it.
Yes.
I just happened to have worked for them for a couple of decades before I started training with Alan Ram. And, you know, I recall early on going to training. The training is something that is fundamental with the Lexus brand.
Yes.
In most areas of the dealership, you're going to have some sort of mandatory fundamental training, but as you tenure, they send you to workshops and classes that specialize in understanding your buyer. And I remember 15 years ago attending workshops where they taught us that women were so influential. And so I think that they, you know, I'm sure that they have a lot of influence in those dealerships, but, you know, I'm sure the culture and the management at the dealership has a lot to do with it too.
Also, the group. So
and
put
the
together,
owner.
so you know, you may have the Penske group, they have a certain standards, etc. You've got Larry Miller, who has a Christian background, that certain beliefs. So I think, you know, when we say things start at the top, it's not just the general manager of the store or the principal. It is the manufacturer, and it is the group. I believe that so many now are, and Michael, I don't know if you find it, there's very few single point dealerships out there any longer.
Oh no, yeah. Independent stores don't even have single points anymore. I mean, You know, the one thing we can talk about, and I don't want to go down this tangent, but just say, you know, we can talk about a million things that are happening with the car business, and no one knows except for looking through their crystal ball. But the reality is, the corporatization of the car business is what is going to is the one transformation that we can guarantee that's going to happen. And a lot of the things that I think have happened, you know, in the car business in years past, some of it gets corrected just by that corporatization, correct? Just by having a proper HR department in the
Standard,
store changes the conversation.
Yes, yes. And I have found, and this is just on a personal level with training, I don't have a large company like you. I'm a one-woman show. So even though I'm familiar with the dealers in the Arizona area, I would, right now with the way the industry is, the last thing they want is me to go in and talk about how they can have women buy from them when they're just hoping they have a car to sell them.
Right.
You know, and that's as a single
Well,
person.
that's going to change. That's going to change.
That will
That's
change.
going to change real soon.
That will change. Oh yeah, okay.
No, it is already changing.
Yeah, you're already seeing the inventory change, but
Yeah.
but you know, I also think, like, listen, I go to dealers. Susan and I are training in dealers all the time, and we'll talk about, you know, of course, our program and what we teach and how to be control over the phone, but we also teach like leadership, and we also teach about hiring and the hiring of female, you know, salespeople is just so important. I don't think it becomes a focus. You know,
Correct.
when I was running a Mazda store out here on Long Island, you know, we had at one point we had one female salesperson on the showroom floor. It was a store of 10 people, right? Salespeople. We only had one. There were some customers that would sit on the couch in service and wait until that one woman salesperson was finished.
Yeah.
So how do we attract it? You know, I used to always say, oh, go to Sephora and whoever spots you on the most stuff in Sephora, hire her. Right? Because she could sell. Go to, all right, you're making good money at Sephora. Sure. You want to make $100,000 a year? Come sell a car. You don't understand the impact you'll make in cars. Great. But aside from me going to spend, you know, $500 on, you know, perfume and makeup that my wife doesn't want in Sephora to find a salesperson, what's a better way to do it? Or find a
Well, I
salesperson?
forget about finding them, because finding them is just half the battle. The other battle is
100%.
retaining them, which goes back to our point. I mean, whether you're, you know, finding them, retaining them. Kathy, what is it that dealerships are doing? The ones that are retaining dealership, the Lexus dealerships, what is it that those guys are doing to set up the female for success? Because I think it's pretty universal. We want to see more females in the, you know, in the car dealership. I think, you know, you just said it, both of you guys just said it. How do we do that?
That's interesting. So I always felt that, and you have background with Lexus, so you know. So if you're dealing with a luxury brand, there seems to be a different criteria, and the culture might be just a little bit different. And therefore, a woman is going to feel more comfortable. I have found, and I've asked, so I have a dealer friend that has a very large Porsche dealership here. And I questioned him on the hiring process. And he said things have changed over the years. The general managers used to run the ads, or the ad agency, run the ads, and then they would interview the women. He said now it goes through HR. They apply online. I did not know that. They apply online. Then they have an interview with HR. And then if they qualify, they go to the GM. So I said, so what is it when you interview that female and you want females? He goes, absolutely. I've got a female here that's here 15 years, top salesperson at Porsche. He said, and I have 7 other women. What I'm missing is a tech. If I could find a female tech, I would be complete. He said, I like working with women. And the interviewing process, he says, is what does it. He never wants them to come necessarily from a sales background. So he feels that if you are a mother, you already have customer service skills because you're dealing with a household. His biggest challenge is there's certain questions you can and can't ask, but for him, it's always the hours that he is always concerned about. Do you have a flexible schedule? Because now consumers are calling you on your private phone, and if it's your day off, would you be willing to come in? And he is basing it more on how they have to be dressed properly. I have a big thing on that, whether it's for an interview or how you dress completely for your working there. That's totally a big part of it. I believe that the ads they run looking for women is in sales are wrong. It looks just like they're looking for just a salesperson, when there should be it's not just a 401k. And don't lie to me and tell you you're going to make $10,000 in 3 months. Let's talk about why it should be appealing to this female, etc. And of course, I have set up in my mind how dealers could accommodate more women, and it's having daycare on the premises. I mean, I've gone through all this with General Motors, daycare on the premises, bonuses that are geared towards women. I'll be very honest with you. And I believe that they could have and retain some of the best out there. College graduates even, which I am not, but I would say that they could attract the right female. And other than that, I can tell you what a Kia store person says. They just want a warm body that can sell.
Oh, I've heard that. I heard
heard
that a million times. I just heard it on a trip a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I heard it on a trip. I just need people who are warm bodies who could just sell a car to someone.
Yeah.
And that was great for the last 2 years, but that's over now.
That's over.
But I was curious. There are two things in that you said, but the first thing I was curious about, what's a bonus? Okay. So I don't want a cash bonus. What's another bonus that would be interesting to a female salesperson?
Okay. So, and let's not stereotype women that they want a gift certificate to Sephora. However, if you
we're just hiring them there.
Yeah, you're hiring because you're busy hiring them, of course.
And you will find them there.
You will. This is so cute because if you get to know your people, which this gentleman from Porsche, Dave, said to me, he goes, I take my service techs out for lunch every quarter. I take my sales men and women out to lunch, break it up and I treat them to lunch, etc. And I get to know what's going on a casual basis. So I believe that you as a dealer, Michael, when you had the Mazda store, you know enough about Cathy Droz that I like red high heels. You know that Cathy Droz has grandchildren up the wazoo. So now my individual bonus for doing a good job, whether it be delivering 50 vehicles or whatever, is that you get me a gift card to either a shoe store or a gift card of appreciation to Toys R Us. It is all about, just like you want to treat your customer, because that's really my customer experience for me is, I mean, I could go through that where
right.
A salesperson meets you. Go ahead, Michael. Did I go off track?
It's a mindset change, right?
Yes.
Because listen, it's very easy to throw cash at Susan when she does a good job as a salesperson. It could be throwing cash at me, right? As a salesman, it's another thing to say, like, because I like giving bonuses, not just, I haven't thought about it in salespeople, and this is the mindset change, right? I always was like, give someone a bonus, like buy, a gift certificate to a restaurant or an experience or something, because they'll remember you, right? Remember when my boss sent me to dinner? Because if you just hand me a pile of cash, I'm just going to pay bills with it or, buy some whatever with it. And that's it. So it's changing that dealer mindset.
What appeals to women.
Yes.
But not just women, men, right? I mean, I might like
and men, yes, but now you both said something, and I want to circle back because I think this is a really important point. And Cathy mentioned bonusing in a different way. I think traditionally dealerships who are trying to find women will throw this, hey, make $10,000 in 3 months. And that's how they're trying to appeal to women. But in reality, we need something different to appeal to us, right? We need for you to say, for example, we'll bonus you with an early evening off, every Friday, let's say, so you can have a long weekend with your family. And that's, if you sell 2-3 cars a week, and I think that's part of that culture that you're talking about, is that we're using the wrong tactics.
Women want to be appreciated. Yes. Right. And not
of course it's
right.
always appreciated.
So maybe Michael was the kind of dealer that would walk over after a sale that a woman or a man, doesn't matter, and said, you did a great job. This is fantastic. Keep up the good work. I would actually like you to help mentor so-and-so. She's brand new. And if you could help her, that would be a great thing too, because that's how much I appreciate you and I think about you. Women in general, many times it's not the money. I know it. If it was the money with me, I'd be a millionaire. I give away everything.
Yes.
So, but I like the fact that dealer, the head of Berkshire Hathaway says, Cathy, that was a great idea. Thank you. Meanwhile, I gave him a $10,000 idea, but, it was just a thank you, but I'm okay. So,
But you're right. What drives us is different. And it has been, even though it's changing, the dealership world has been a man's world. And, those have been the tactics as long as I can remember. So, now, what other tips, what other things are you seeing that dealerships are doing right, specifically, in the showroom, as far as either schedules or, perhaps it's, you mentioned daycare, things in the dealership perks. What sort of things would you advise dealerships to incorporate into their into their dealership, to attract more of these females?
Well, and I don't want, this is not saying that I'm so smart, but 20 years ago, I established a cafe, a little cafe. I mean, now they're everywhere in all the dealerships, but it was, call it a cafe. What did it have? 2 pots of coffee and 6 cups. But it wasn't just in the service department, it was in the showroom department. And I would have, I would buy baked goods and bring that in. And you can imagine the men at that time were going, what is this, a bake shop, or are we trying to sell cars here? I also took one of the offices and turned it into an internet office. And, you still had, you had the big box computers. It wasn't, and I turned it into a library, and then where people could sit. So it was being innovative. I tried to get a Starbucks, believe it or not, before they were doing off-site stuff. And they said, oh, we've never heard of that. We can't put a Starbucks inside the dealership. So I think it was always
and now they're in
innovative. I
Target.
started the first Latino dealership where it was everyone spoke Spanish and English.
Wow.
And because I know enough about the culture because of my husband, I had soccer players, the professional soccer players on Sundays. We'd have big barbecues after church at the Nissan store. And we'd have these soccer players came. And of course, we have our Latino families, and the kids would play, get autographs, etc. And so it's thinking outside of the box that is not just being an ad agency and a marketing company. It's being a woman and putting yourself in that place. What do I want from my family? What will make me feel comfortable? Because I'm just the girl, the old lady next door, but the girl next door. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, you almost hit on it, right? When you just said right now, it's what works for me and my family. Right.
Mhm.
And I think dealers we were talking earlier about generational differences, and every generation complaining about another generation, right? Before we got on, right? And that's what happens. And that's happening a little bit here. And I think we're in this phase where a generation is looking back and they're preaching, right? Guys my age, late 40s, early 50s. They're out there saying, we care about family and our dealership is about family and we want you to be with your families, but you're still working on Sunday. We're
Right.
still keeping a full staff here till 8 o'clock every night, even though 8 o'clock is when it's slow. We're busier in the morning. We're not adjusting scheduling that way. We're not doing things to help people's families. So I heard this story a couple months ago from a couple ladies who working in a BDC, and when you agreed to come on the podcast and join us, I was like, I have to save this and ask Cathy about it. Okay, so here's the situation. A lot of single moms, they have daycare that ends at 5 or 6 o'clock. Now, do they want to leave work at 5 or 6 o'clock? No. Do they get charged $20, $15, $10, whatever it is, a minute? Not an hour. They're getting charged that a minute after 5 or 6 o'clock. Okay. And I got a manager. So they raised this issue. I go to the manager. We're talking about it. And you know what the manager says to me? They just want to leave early. I'm like, have you ever asked them to come? They just want special hours and special treatment. And I can't give that to them because the rest of the sales staff, the single guys will all go, well, how come? What about us? We don't have kids. We're being punished because we don't have kids. Like, and so tell me, like, how do you get through that? Like, I had my conversation with him and I was like, listen, it's not like these women don't want to come back. They'll probably come back to work if you give them the opportunity. So how do you deal with that? How do you help managers overcome that mindset and that issue in the showroom where other, my 20-year-old guys are going to say, hey, I don't have kids. This isn't fair.
That's very interesting because it brings back to the fact that I don't consider that dealer per se a very good leader or a role model or a manager. And that brings me back to when a dealer actually finds out that these ladies, they need to leave at a certain time, that needs to be arranged ahead of time, and that's their deal. And if everyone else is, that you have to, it's kind of like the dealerships that are her certified, they're family. They are family, and you have to cover for each other. And if you don't establish that culture, it's the leader's fault. I'm sorry. And what do you say to them? You're a horrible leader? No, you want their business, don't you, Michael? I mean, you can't say that.
Listen, I don't tell them you're a horrible leader, but we have to show them the light, right? We have to get them to understand that. And I think this is the biggest roadblock because, again, generational differences. When Susan and I and you were coming up, we worked our butts off. The competition, all our friends were also working their butts off in offices or in car dealerships or in some sort. Now we live in a world where I'm at home, Susan's at home, you're at home. People are in the van traveling, but I'm still demanding that you're in this dealership from bell to bell.
Right.
I think it comes back to what Cathy said at the end. It really depends on all of the leadership that's in charge of the culture of that dealership. And I mean, listen, I think that unfortunately, because of the bad leadership, those dealerships are the ones that will eventually be phased out. We know that things are changing. We know that the economy is changing and the way people are buying is changing. And so you're really going to have to stand out, and it's those dealerships that are going to have the good leadership and have, the good culture that, that makes it easy and successful for people of all types, and genders to win, not just men, but women too. So I know we're running out of time. I know we could probably go on for another hour.
Well, we're just going to have Cathy back is all that's going to have to be.
I would love to. I would love to.
Gosh, I mean, we're getting deep, and I look forward to seeing more women in the auto industry. And I love seeing women like Cathy fighting for that and just advocating for people, not just for women, but for the dealerships and helping dealerships change and transform themselves to become more successful. So Cathy, tell us quickly how people can get a hold of you.
Well, I'm very happy to, I'd love an email. Cathy with a C at hercertified.com. That'd be wonderful. And, I have hercertified.com. I've got my my website, and YouTube is actually, because I review cars. I've test driven almost 700. So YouTube, I have, and LinkedIn, you know,
I
do
love
have
your
a
review.
decent
And your
following.
daughters are part of that too. I love it.
Yes, and I'm getting the grandkids. In fact, the manufacturers just asked if the school teacher, the one that went to Thousand Oaks, if she would get back on and start reviewing cars again. So that's a big deal, because
Cool.
there's very few of us left. So that's all good.
That's
Well,
awesome.
I love seeing the grandkids in there.
Thank you. They're
All
fun.
right. So Cathy with a C at hercertified.com. We'll make sure to have that posted. But thank you so much. And
My
yeah, we're
pleasure.
definitely going to have you back and continue this conversation.
Well,
Michael, if you can let us know what's going on in the RAM world.
Yes, we have so
What's
much
coming
exciting.
up? What's exciting? I know that
Okay,
there's-
well, let me tell you, this lady, Susan Gaitan down here, she's been in the studio a lot, and she's been producing some amazing new content. She has taken the entire phone ups that show up, Cathy. Let me tell you this phone ups that show up. This is the foundational program. This is what Alan built as an incredible foundation of a program. And we've taken it and given it just a refresh. A lot has happened since Alan's passed away, and it needs a refresh. He would have changed it. He would have refreshed it. And Susan's taken it, and it just is a complete different experience. The same word tracks, the same core foundations, but the experience is different now. You know, as we're talking about people learning differently and people changing the way they learn, the courses are much smaller, shorter, with quicker snippets, and we changed the organization. You're going to love it. This is launching in January. We're so excited. We also launched, because accountability is such a part of everything, that dealers, the best dealers, right, Cathy? The best dealers hold people accountable. We've created a RAM accountability app. This app is a simple one-touch app. They can see their engagement on the platform, their lead to show statistics that pull right from their CRM, as well as the mystery shops that we conduct for you, the scorecard of that mystery shop, and you can listen to the recording right off your phone to help you coach and work with your teams. And then finally, for our next podcast, we're excited. We have a new trainer with us, who's also going to be our national sales manager. Michael Polk is our new national sales manager. He's going to be on our next podcast with us. We're going to introduce him to the RAM world. So all that exciting stuff, including our new Social to Showroom platform course, is up on the platform, completed and launched, and we're really excited about that. Melanie Borden really takes you kind of on a journey through LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, what to be doing on platforms to get that visibility and convert customers to the showroom. So tons of exciting stuff here at RAM. 2023 is going to be amazing. Cathy, I thank you so much for your time, and I can't wait to continue this conversation. And I really think I want to do this again and have a bunch more women on here and just have a really long, really cool, like hour-long conversation about how to change that mindset in the showroom, because I think that's what this conversation showed. It's just we're hitting roadblocks of it's like college hazing, right? I got hazed, so now you have to get hazed. I work bell to bell, now you have to work bell to bell. We need to break that. And thank you for being a part of it.